Hey, everybody, welcome back to Too Many Men. I feel a little out of practice. We got a holiday. My name is Allison Lucan, and as always, I am joined by a woman who is described as such. You have a charming personality and a tremendous gift for covering hockey, and you don't have a Brett Burns beard, which is a plus. I could go on, but Everett Thompson might be reading. And also, you stick to your guns and aren't afraid of rocking the boat if need be. That's the way I operate as well. All the best to our one and only Sarah Sivian. Sarah, how are you today?
Please, I almost wish I had a Brent Burns beard during this interview that we're really excited about. That's going to come up soon because I didn't realize how sick I was. But I am on the mend, everybody. We survived the sickness of 2023.
And we would not be Too Many Men if we were not joined by one of the most innovative writers. If you are not reading the content that Shayna Goldman is putting out at The Athletic right now, you are just not doing life properly, asking fundamental questions about how organizations are being built, when they can contend. It's just absolutely phenomenal stuff you're going to read over and over again. Shayna, say hi.
Hi, and thanks for the inspiration on that. You took my idea up a notch with the idea of when contenders are going to be good. I love that. I think it added like the right thing that story needed.
I always give you things for the list, Shayna. I always give you things for the list. Speaking of the list, y'all, if you are watching our YouTube stream, and even if you're not, we now have Too Many Men burn books. We also have, Shayna, Too Many Men notebooks. So don't forget to check out our delightful merch. That link is in our bio on our
And what else?
And watch me. I don't have it.
Mine's on the charger. Mine died. I just put it on the charger. So next
Too Many Men Apple Watch bands. So check all that out. Be sure to get it. Sarah's is on the way. We might actually have some pop up at a Kraken game soon. I'm just saying, just throwing that out there into the universe. We'll see. But anyway, my friends, we have a lot to get to. Sarah already told you we have an interview coming up that we just enjoyed the heck out of. So we're going to be quick on our hockey related news today, and then let the superstar that we have joining us take over. But for my friends, it's time. Sarah, your favorite segment.
Bit-o news.
I love it so much.
Can we add to Bit-o news? We have a Bit-o merch coming soon.
What is that Bit-o merch?
Some Bit-o news merch.
Ooh.
With a clover as requested.
Just in time for St. Patrick's Day. We got to get that up for the St. Patrick's Day gear, Shayna.
Finishing it up. It was not the easiest to do, but big shout out to my sister who does not listen to this podcast. Only one does, the other doesn't, Alexa. So, she helped a lot on that logo for us.
Wait, so Alexa does listen to the podcast or does not?
No, not you, Alexa. Stop. Stop.
That's why I bought me. Hey, Alexa, listen to the podcast. I know. Okay.
I feel like Nick Miller yelling at technology. Sorry.
That's okay. Let's get to our Bit-o news, my friend. And of course, first, there was the big Toronto trade, because of course we have to ask, how does this affect the Leafs? My friends, the Leafs are going in on their big ticket player so that they can hopefully beat Tampa, who's to say. Their trade is as follows: acquiring Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari in a 3-team trade with St. Louis and Minnesota. St. Louis receives Mikhail Abramov and Adam Gaudette, Toronto's first pick in 23 and Ottawa's 3rd round pick in 23, and Toronto's 2nd round pick in 2024. Minnesota receives Toronto's 4th round pick in 25. 3-team trades are always fun. It's already been written and well established. If you really care about the logistics of it, don't come to us. We don't have enough time because we have a big interview coming. But Sarah, did you like this move for the Leafs? We're coming off a game last night where Ryan O'Reilly actually scores a hat trick against one of his former teams.
I think it's hilarious that Patrick Kane was salty about not getting traded to the Leafs or the Rangers, and he scored a hat trick. And then the next day, Ryan O'Reilly is like, okay, I can do that too. He did it. So that shows them. He's not going to score a hat trick, and maybe he is going to score a hat trick every night. Who's to say? But I loved the deal at, what was it, 75% discount? They're paying 1.75 something in a million ballpark. Yep. For Ryan freaking O'Reilly. And I think even at the cost, I don't know, they're in a position, the Leafs right now, where they could do something else too. And I just think the way teams are taking advantage of like the third person and making huge discounts for players has been really interesting and good. And I think this is going to be one of Kyle Dubas's trademarks, or it might, not to be dramatic, I don't think this will be what gets him fired, but at a certain point, if they don't get out of the first round, it'll be bad. But I like this for them.
Shayna, a lot of times when teams make a big trade like this, there's obviously repercussions through the lineup. And one of those that we're seeing at least early is that John Tavares is now playing on the wing. What are your thoughts, not on the trade in terms of the players that came to the Leafs, but what is the impact on the team been, and do you like it?
So I don't know how long this is going to last, the lineup formation. I think it was a smart start. First of all, a lot of centers credit shifting to the wing as good for their game. You can focus more on your offense, and it gives you a little bit more perspective. I remember like David Krejci saying it and Tyler Seguin before, like when they were shifted to the wing, they liked the perspective they got when they went back to center. And I fully expect John Tavares to go back to center eventually. But when you're trying to bring a player into your lineup, and they did it really quickly for back-to-back games, you don't even get a full team practice. You don't get time to acclimate to their systems, which are totally different from the Blues. And you're asking him to play a different role off the bat, a more offensive role that, you know, that's not what he's been doing lately. He's more of that shutdown center. I think it's so much better to put him in a position to succeed. Don't even play games. They could have said you could have played the wing, which he's done before. They were like, nope, here's the best place you can be. We know that you were good at playmaking this year. You didn't have anyone to finish your chances. Here's John Tavares. We know that you're a good shooter. Here's one of the best playmakers in the league and one of the best two-way players. So I think it was all about just getting him acclimated very quickly on the fly for 3 quick games. Then they can start practicing a little bit more and figure out everything from there. And you allow Tavares to get the perspective that he needs and just make it all click. And then they can figure it out from there. Do they want him to be the 3C? I think in certain matchups, you're going to want that 1, 2, 3 center depth. But if you put him there to start, like his wingers are going to be Kerfoot and Engvall. Like that's not the perfect position to start in. So I like that they eased him in that way. I like that you get to see that line pop off because I think they're super fun. And I like that they're going to bring options for themselves, because in the playoffs, we know you need to be adaptable. So it's good to know, hey, he fits here. And then they can swing him at center and go, hey, we know he fits there. And you can just easily adjust per game because you have all the time in the world to game plan for Tampa to try to finally beat them.
Well, it's quite an incredible move. It's the 3rd year in a row that Toronto has traded for a captain. And somewhere along the way, our listeners have decided that I'm apparently the ultimate Leafs fan on this podcast, which is hilarious because I'm the only one of us that currently works for a team. So if you're salty about this trade, St. Louis Blues fans, apparently I'm to blame, because the 2 previous years, the Leafs came for the captain of the team that I cover. So we have no captain in Seattle, so they had to come for you. Apologies.
They already took your captain.
They already took my captain. Oh, captain, my captain. No captain, my captain. So that's the big Toronto trade, in a slightly lesser move, but still hilarious, because we're just going to file this under I can't quit you, Tyler Mott. He's a Ranger again. He comes back in exchange for Julien Gauthier and the 7th rounder. Tyler Mott is on his, what is this, 604th round as a New York Ranger. Sarah, do you like this move for the Big Apple team?
Yeah, why not? I think that's enough though. Like, okay, we did it. We did it. Now don't ruin the future. I loved what they did with what they have. Gauthier is still a good trade chip, even though he hasn't really contributed at the NHL level that people would have hoped. I covered him in Carolina. He is such a fun player with potential, but it just like, for whatever reason, like he keeps getting on these teams that suddenly become getting good. So I think he needs like to be on a bad team and figure things out and have the
unless Ottawa gets
that
deeper this summer and knocks him right fucking out of slot.
Yeah, it might not be in the cards, but hey, I mean, I like the insurance depth going into the playoffs. They got their sniper, they got this guy. Just don't trade for Patrick Kane, because then you give up both of your first rounders and you're in a really good position where you at least have one, and you're in a position where you can contend for the cup for a few more years. I don't understand why you're trading like future pieces away more than you need to. Just stop now.
Shayna, do you like this move?
Yeah, I like Tyler Mott a lot. We talked about him so much last postseason on how the Rangers needed to make in-game adjustments and how he was the player they should have used for him. And when they finally did, I think their whole postseason kind of turned around. he's a fourth line player, and I think that can get super overvalued, but the Rangers fourth line is very bad. Like the night before they were in Calgary and the fourth line did not play after I think it was the 31-minute mark because they were that bad. So now you get a nice disruptor who's very good on the penalty kill. They can always use that, especially if you're, it's a team, if they go up against someone like New Jersey in round one, which is what we're all projecting, they need someone who's not just a one-dimensional fourth liner. They need someone with a little bit of pop, which he brings. Are they done though? I'm not sure because the coaches keep playing fourth line players in top six roles. And I don't know if anybody wants to go into the postseason with like Jimmy Vesey as a first line right winger. So I'm not sure what they do, but you have the problem of like, who are the coaches willing to play? And they could also get a 4C or make Barclay Joe play there and get another fourth liner to shake things up the right way, but we'll see how that goes. But for now, it's a good start. And Julien Gauthier would have been the healthy scratch if they just traded for Mott and only got, only for a pick. So you would have had him like wasting away as a 13th forward. So good for him getting an opportunity elsewhere.
Awesome. Well, there are still going to be trades to be made. One that's not going to be made, however, is the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, and that's Jonathan Toews, who has finally made a statement to the media and the public as a whole that he will not be traded because of illness. He is still suffering the repercussions of long COVID, which had been an idea that was thrown out about his illness, but we weren't necessarily sure. So, no Jonathan Toews in terms of wearing a different jersey this year. It seems it might still be in question if he's actually even going to play the balance of this season. First and foremost, we, of course, for a full recovery to full health for Jonathan Toews. But Sarah, again, the player had been hesitant to confirm what was going on with him, which we certainly can understand, but there's also sometimes a need to share the details of your own personal experience. What did you make of this announcement?
Yeah, it just sucks. I appreciate the transparency now about it. I think a lot of people are struggling with this around the world, and even athletes, doesn't really matter who you are. So I hope he gets better. It's nice that he's not putting teams like in jeopardy because of his own selfish needs. So do what you have to do. I hope he makes a full recovery.
So Shayna, with Jonathan Toews not being on the trade market and Patrick Kane either sulking or scoring hat tricks, who in your mind right now is the biggest remaining trade chip on the market in terms of forwards?
Timo Meier, hands down. No one is close to him on that tier. It's amazing. Like you could want a young winger and even someone with term that maybe isn't that traditional rental expiring contract type of player. There is no one close to him available on the market. So, anyone who has to find the runner up, I hope you have your expectations set appropriately and don't overspend.
I saw Frank Saravelli reported that the Blues are interested in him. I'm like, how does that make sense? Or what?
A quick turnaround. They don't want the tear down rebuild. They have 3 first-round picks. They're like, why not? And I would be so curious I feel like Chychrun makes a ton of sense for them too. So imagine they were the team, they move out Parayko, get some picks back for that too, and somehow score both of them. Like, that would be so wild. And I think it's something like the NHL needs to happen.
They say Rome was built in a day.
Amazing. All right. We also will just update you because we are diligent in reporting to you all the news. Connor McDavid scored 100 points in 57 games. Good for him. He doesn't like us, so we don't like him. But there is two more bits of news here, just breaking as we came to record, is that, again, it really has to be about the Leafs at all times. Jake Muzzin has been ruled out for the rest of the season and the playoffs. Shayna, you were the one to see this news first. Just some really quick thoughts from you on this result for the Leafs. I think we all thought this was coming, but now it's official.
Yeah, I think Toronto's kind of like managed their defense with the idea in mind that he probably won't be returning. So, this isn't like some big shock to them, and they still might go out and get a defenseman because we know they need to maximize the next 2 years this postseason and then all of next year, considering the contract situations of Matthews, Nylander, then Marner. And I mean, I don't think Tavares matters that much. That's just going to be open cap space, but they have to like really go for it this and next year. And it's not like they're like, oh no, let's scramble. I still think they might look for a defenseman as long as, again, it's another 3-team trade or they're paying up for salary retention. They don't care about picks, and that's fine. If you know what your priorities are, go for it. So now maybe they have the certainty to go for someone because he's not returning.
Outstanding. One other piece of news that I know is certainly raising a lot of questions in a lot of different areas. And it's unfortunate because this is one of our favorite players, friend of the pod, we've decided. Colorado Avalanche, I'm going to call him a rover. I'm not even going to call him a defender. Yep. Cale Makar is out with an upper body injury. I'm reading the reports of a tremendous reporter, Peter Baugh, who covers the Avs, out with an upper body injury day to day. Earlier this month, and this is again words of Peter Baugh, Makar was able to return to a game after clearing concussion protocol, but felt symptoms the next morning. Against St. Louis yesterday, this was the day in which it was announced that he was injured again, he left the game after contact to the head face. 2 concussions. It's since come out that the spotter did not pull Cale Makar from the game. First and foremost, again, we want a full and complete recovery for Cale. He's bringing so much to the game on and off the ice, which we appreciate. And I'm sure his loved ones and friends care ultimately about the person as well. But Sarah, we continue to hear about the risks of concussions. And now it looks like everyone, even the quote unquote unbiased people who are in this game, who are supposed to protect players from themselves in these situations, fell down on the job. What was your reaction when you heard this news?
Yeah, I think we need more of an investigation into what the concussion protocol is and what it should be and if it needs an update, because clearly it failed.
Shayna.
Yeah, the whole thing was really disappointing. Like, first of all, I think you always need to be careful when it's the head. Second of all, if the player is coming back from a concussion, literally that day, you need to be even more on alert. This is a superstar. This is the face of the game. This is the face of the team, one of the most important players. I think it was said, and I think it was Peter Baugh who reported it, that he left the ice because he thought his visor cut his head. And it was an accident. I don't think it was some intentional malicious hit. I think it looked like completely incidental, but he returned to the game. It was 4-1. And even when I saw that, and I assumed he was out because of a concussion spotter and past protocol, regardless, just look at him and go, sit this one out. There's no reason to risk anything. It is 4-1. This is your first game back. And even though nothing happened in the time he returned, it just doesn't matter. And I think that's where like the breakdown is. It's unfortunate in his first game back. You can't do anything to avoid that when it's an accidental hit, but why did he return? You just saw it. You literally just saw it where his symptoms were delayed. And they know this too. They have experience with it with Gabriel Landeskog a couple of years ago where his symptoms were delayed. And he was out a really long time with a concussion. So it's a really bad spot. Like, there was no reason for him to not be pulled. I would be curious too, like, did the spotters think he pulled himself from the game? And they were like, okay, we don't have to pull him out because it could have looked that way. But if you're the coaches or you're the staff, just say, you could sit on the bench, but you're not going back out there. Like, your night's done. It doesn't matter. There's 7 minutes left of a game. It's 4-1. Be done. And that didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm with Sarah. I think if we want to be better and if we want to protect, I mean, this is a superstar of the sport. If we want to be better and protect the stars who are going to make money, which is at the end of the day what a lot of these people only care about, nonetheless, you must have safety precautions in place, particularly when it comes to head injuries, so that you don't lose the player, more importantly, the person, from just life, not just the game. So that concludes our Bit O News. Usually we bring to you a member of the shit list, but today we are thrilled to have the anti-shit list entry, a rare occurrence here in Too Many Men world, but we do have one. Every now and then there is a piece of information or a story that simultaneously all 3 of us or 2 of us post in the chat or just all react to and just really connect with. And that is the entry on our anti-shit list. This was a post that came out on Valentine's Day, and it's the wonderful, tremendous, and talented Tara Sloan, who covers the San Jose Sharks, interviewing Brian Burke about Patrick Marleau's upcoming number retirement, but also about hockey and the importance of the hockey community welcoming the LGBTQIA+ community. And Sarah, I know this connected with you not only because we are such fans of Tara's work, but also to hear the words of Brian Burke. Just can you walk our listeners through what this was all about? We'll of course share this link, but what's important to take away from this?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of comments that people who might not know Brian Burke, they were just impressed that an old hockey curmudgeon was speaking up for LGBTQ plus rights in his curmudgeon-y way, which we need more representation of that for sure. And it shows like to not always stereotype people. And that is kind of like, I wrote a story a few years ago when he was making fun of the storm surge, and people were kind of like, good people in the Hurricanes community were like crapping on him, right? Like, oh, he's just another old man. I'm like, guys, he's actually kind of like, he's an advocate for LGBTQ rights. His son came out as gay, and we tragically lost him in a car accident a few years ago, but they started You Can Play for him, and his legacy lives on. And the Burke family has never been shy to support gay rights. And Brian was at Pittsburgh Pride over the summer, so that's really nice. But yeah, he was not impressed by the way that some players are not wearing Pride jerseys, but at the same time, he can speak on how things aren't as dire, because he's been alive and around for so long, that he does think things are going in the right direction in hockey, which is nice to hear. I don't know. I think I was more impressed that like this question is being asked. I'm just really impressed by Tara in her new role, which is kind of around the community in San Jose. I think having someone of her caliber, whose job it is right now to interview maybe marginalized communities and things about marginalized communities in hockey, like that's her sole job right now. I think it's just awesome.
Shayna, I personally think it's important to have an old curmudgeon hockey guy show the other old curmudgeon hockey guys that they can change their position on this issue. And this is the kind of individual who can call out a player or a team or an organization that makes choices to not support Pride. What did you think when you saw this interview?
Yeah, absolutely. That, like, you can disagree with Brian Burke on a lot of things, like his hockey takes. Like, you know, when he was on the Sportsnet broadcast, I would find myself like rolling my eyes, shaking my head at a lot of things he said, and that's totally fine. But about the important issues, he's always so spot on about it. And he's the person in a position that can do it, that will make people listen. He's a huge supporter of women's hockey, and we hear it all the time, him not just promoting it, but saying things like, buy season tickets. You want to support them, get off your ass and show up and buy season tickets. Like, he is a big voice for them too. But with this, I love it. There's no bullshit. There's no nothing. Like, he knows where things have gone. He knows where things need to go. And it's so refreshing, and it's nice to hear him be candid about it. And Tara's the perfect person to be asking these questions. She knows how to do it. She also knows him very well. But it's just like that's what we need more of. And I hope others in her capacity, her role, take notes on how to ask it. And I hope others, you know, other hockey men take notes from him. And it's not like this is anything new from him, but I don't see him, I don't know, losing his job, having anything happen to him for, you know, trying to be a good person. I don't see any bad repercussions. Like, it's almost like you could just say what you want about things like this and try to be a good human for 5 seconds. And the most you'll get is a couple of people being like, hey, thank you for doing that. Who knew?
There's different ways to be an ally. And I think sometimes people get lost in, oh, you have to be the wokest person in the world, because that's a bad faith talking point from people who don't want more wokeness. And no, you don't have you don't have to get offended at, I'm sorry. You don't have to get offended at things you don't like want to, I don't know. Like, there's different ways to show your support on whatever way you feel comfortable showing it, but it's important that you do show it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my friends, those are the hot headlines and our one entry on the anti-shit list. We want to turn you over to a delightful conversation. We have rambled on and on this show about our crazy goaltending ideas. We've got Shayna screaming at goaltenders on the bench. You've got me switching them in and out for penalties. You've got Sarah's
yelling at them too. We're the two mean coaches. Yes. It's not just me. We're a team. A team that nobody wants or needs. The two coaches getting bounced every fucking game. A referee's nightmare, a goalie's nightmare. Hire us, teams.
We're ready.
Hire us, teams. Well, we decided that it was important for us to see how crazy or not crazy we were. And so thanks to Shayna's tremendous network, because she is the bestest, she brought us a guest. Shayna, tell us who the people are about to hear from.
We brought good friend of the podcast and goalie extraordinaire, Martin Biron, to hear our ideas, tell us what's good, what's not, and, you know, bring a couple ideas of his own. Hi, so we've been talking about a goalie panel. Don't laugh at me. I'm not the host for a
Sorry,
reason.
okay.
We've been talking about a goalie panel because literally no one understands goaltending except for actual goalies. So we have an expert here. Our friend Martin Biron is here to listen to our batshit ideas and tell us whether or not they check out or not. Marty, welcome.
Can't wait. I can't wait. Bring it, because I'm a conservative when it comes to goalie minds at heart, but I love crazy ideas. So let's bring it.
Okay. I'm going to ask first, and then you two jump in. Do you think goaltenders should take their own penalties and sit in the box for 2 minutes?
No, I don't. You'd be in a lot of trouble if you took a penalty and then the other guy went in and took a penalty himself or herself. But I remember a game where I was sitting on the bench and one of our players got a 5 minute, a 2, a 10, a game or whatnot. And Lindy Ruff was in a heated argument with the referee, wanting me as the backup to go serve the 10-minute misconduct. He's like, Marty, you're going. I'm like, that's impossible. And then he got heated with the referee. So look, I think people have thought about it, but I don't think goalies should serve their own penalties now.
All right. Well, should goaltenders be deployed as specialists? For example, if a goaltender is really good in penalty kill situations, should a coach be able to and intentionally switch out a goaltender based on game situation?
Okay, that's yes, you could do that. I don't know that I would do it, and the only reason is I remember years and years ago in juniors. So Manny Fernandez was fighting for the lowest goals against average in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Him and Philippe de Rouville were like basically neck at neck in the last game. And I believe it was Michel Therrien was the coach of Laval, and basically sent out Manny only on power play situations so he would get like minutes without giving up goals. And it backfired, and Manny gave up a shorthanded goal and then had to stay for the rest of the game, gave up 3 more goals. And I think he lost out to de Rouville for the lowest goals against average that year. So I think if you try to play around with that too much, it may end up backfiring at some point. We've seen it with shootouts, right? Where Ty Conklin, I think 1 year got pulled right at the start of the shootout, and he was upset, throwing his mask on the bench with the Edmonton Oilers. I went in cold in the shootout one time, but it was because of an injury, and it didn't work well. I got scored by, I think it was Marty Straka first, or maybe it was Nylander first and then Jagger. But anyway, like I think it would backfire, but I like the idea of maybe shootout specialists, but I don't know about penalty kill specialists.
You have a really good memory.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it comes with the territory, right? Like, especially when you give up goals, you remember those a lot more. Or bad games, you remember that a lot more.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one that I genuinely believe, and I've talked to some professional goalies, and they either are like very for it or very against it. Should teams carry 3 goalies?
No. And especially since COVID, I think it has been the thing that's been discussed, right? Like 3 goalies to make sure that we don't have to deal with a knee bug. Practicing with 3 goalies is about the worst thing in the world. I've done it for almost a full season with the New York Islanders. I joined the Islanders in 09-10. I signed because Rick DiPietro was basically not ready to come back to action until November or December. So it was me and Dwayne Rollison. And then DP started practicing, and then there's 3 of us, and it sucked. It really does. And then I'm the healthy scratch, and then I just like show up for practice the next day, and there's no really need for me to be there. I'm not practicing for anything. It just was brutal. One of my worst experiences, not because, I mean, the team was fun. Like John Tavares, Matt Molson, Bruno Gervais, like we had a lot of Mark Streit. We had a lot of great guys, and they were really supportive, but it just sucked to have 3. I wouldn't carry 3 goalies. I just don't see the need. I actually think it's a pet peeve of mine when I watch college hockey and they have 3 goalies and they dress 3 goalies. I'm like, why do you need 2 guys on the bench? It takes away too much space. There's not enough space anyway. So that's a pet peeve of mine in college hockey.
Did you watch the Beanpot last night?
I did. I caught it from afar. So we were getting ready for the Sabres late, Sabres After Dark in LA. And obviously Devin Levi is a Sabres prospect, so I paid attention to it. Shootout, again, I'm not sure that I like a 5-minute 3-on-3 overtime and then a shootout for the Beanpot final, but I mean, it's college hockey. They do what they do.
Yeah, we never need shootouts as like a decider. Okay, so thinking more about goalie rotations, should we see more goalie rotations within games if someone's having a bad night? Like, what are your thoughts on maybe pulling a goalie for 10 minutes in a nice way, not telling them to get the fuck out, because I've learned that's not the way to do it, but sitting them for 10 minutes, letting them cool off, and then at a commercial break, throwing them back in?
So that is a very common practice in like youth hockey, right? You don't want to pull the goalie. You just want to settle them down. And at some point, I think it just doesn't happen anymore. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've been in those situations. It depends on the goaltender, because as you usually can tell, I watch the goalies, when they start giving up a goal in two, and you look at them, if they're looking at the bench, like, are they looking at their coach? Like, as soon as you start looking at your coach or your coach pulls you, you're mentally kind of checked out. You're like, okay, my night's over. I'm done. And to re-engage is kind of hard. But if you have a goalie, a coach that wants to do that often and that I think you could do it. And also, I mean, maybe it's a cliche, but there's also an energy surge. Sometimes you pull your goalie, your team starts playing a little bit better. Okay, now we're going to put our other goalie back in because that's his game. He needs to finish the game in the NHL, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Marty, are you ready for this one? What is goaltender interference? And should there be a goalie in the situation room to help decipher what it actually is?
Well, I'm sure on occasion there is a goalie in the situation room. I've talked to Kay Whitmore about it plenty of times, and Kay is involved in there at times. He's our big goalie guru in the NHL that checks the equipment and puts it all together and all. Yeah, what is goalie interference? I've read Rule 69 back and forth and back and forth. I know it by heart. There's times I get it wrong, and I don't get it wrong because I don't see the situation wrong. I get it wrong because there's a little fine print or a little piece of the rule book that kind of allows you to make a decision. Loose puck and rebounds, for example. Like, how do you define a loose puck and a rebound, and where is contact allowed in that situation alone? So to me, that's becoming a little bit gray. It's not so much black and white. Look, there's a situation, there's a bump, it's no goal. So inside the crease, I think they've been pretty consistent. There's contact inside the crease. It's not going to be a goal. We wave that off. Now, outside the crease or just borderline around the edge of the crease, it's been tough. So I agree with you. It's for a lot of people, it's been very tough. I like to make my mind. I see the play, I make a call, and I try to stick to it, and then I see what happened. And I'm not saying I'm 50-50. I've got a better percentage than that, but it's sometimes I still get it wrong, and it frustrates me.
Do you think that goaltenders feel protected, right? Because that was the intention of the rule. But do you think goaltenders are frustrated by how the calls go, or do you think they feel like most times officials are getting it right?
I talked to a few goalies about that. I think they feel officials mostly get it right. Goalies are more frustrated when a goal gets taken away at the other end, and they're like, wait a second, because Sarah, we have good memories for goals that we've given up that maybe shouldn't have been given up. Then you're like, hey, wait, a month ago, I got the same call, well, a different call, but the same situation, and they counted it. And so I think that's where goalies get frustrated with it, more because they remember their own experiences. But I know this is a tough one. We just had a debate the other day about kicking the puck, right? And what's a kick? Define a kick. And I understand too, you need to protect the goalies. I would not want my neck down on the ice, my hands down on the ice, and players swinging their sticks at the puck. Look, I've become good friends with Clint Malarchuk over the years, and that was one of the scariest incidents I've ever seen. And I was a kid, and I was worried about going back to practice the next day because of it. So I don't want to see that, but could we make a rule now that anything off your skate outside the crease is a good goal, but anything off your skate inside the crease is a no goal? It doesn't matter if it's kicked in or not. If your skate hits the puck in the crease, it's no goal. But outside the crease, you want to give it a good kick or you want to swipe your leg, then go for it. I think there's a way to tweak that and make it a little bit better for the fans to understand, again, the definition of what is a kicking motion. Like that's hard to interpret sometimes.
Okay, so you jumped on something I was actually about to ask you about. Do you think skaters should be allowed in the crease? Should that be an automatic penalty? Should every play not count if a skater enters the crease at all?
We tried that and it was an absolute disaster. And I remember a game in Edmonton. I went in maybe I was playing the whole game, but anyway, the score is like 6-2 for the Oilers. And there's a goal late in the third that's going to make it 7-2. And Terry Gregson was the official to my right, and he's pointing at the puck, at the net. Good goal. And I'm like, yeah, man, like this is just a terrible night. Like, get me out of here, right? Let's go. Running clock. Let's go. And then all of a sudden I see the officials getting to the penalty box. And within like 30 seconds, we have no goal in the play, skate in the crease. It had nothing to do with my job as a goaltender. It was a toe in the crease about like 6 feet away from me, but it was the rule at the time. Here in Buffalo, we remember the Brett Hall situation, Stanley Cup winning goal in overtime late in the middle of the night. So no, I think the crease should be for everybody to get to. You just have to have awareness. Like, I don't think it should be like lacrosse, right? Where you step in the crease and you're out. But soccer, you can run around the crease. I mean, I think it should be available for everybody, but you still have to have some rules in it.
You just brought back some bad memories of me getting penalties as a lacrosse defenseman. I was very bad at stepping in the crease.
My son played lacrosse his senior year of high school, and I was never so confused with the rules and the penalties. And
it's tough.
And they're yelling touch. It was field lacrosse, and they're yelling touch. I'm like, touch what? Because they have to get the touch in the box and the whole thing. And he was just a backup goalie, so he played a little bit. He was with his buddies. It was fun, but I was never so confused when it comes to field lacrosse.
It's tough. We said you're a hard no on carrying 3 goalies, but should the 2 goalies, should one start more back-to-backs? Like, if a goalie's getting hot, do you think keep it going or no?
Absolutely. I do not like the idea behind the fact that, goalies should not play back-to-back. Even as a backup goaltender to Henrik Lundqvist, I used to look at the schedule and say, okay, we got Friday, Saturday. I'm probably going to play Friday or Saturday, most likely Saturday, especially if it was on the road and against a Western Conference team, right? I was like, that's going to be my game. But I remember talking to Hank about it, and especially because Lundqvist was so mentally tuned in, right? And it took him some time to mentally like release. And then I'm like, is it better, or would it be better if you turned it on Friday and you kept it on until Saturday night, and then after that you had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to just let it out, let the steam out? Because then he was playing Friday, I was playing Saturday, he had the game Monday, he had the game Wednesday, he had the game, like there was never a 4-day break or 5-day break for him to just be, let's let the steam out. And I felt like in the end, it would be more beneficial if he played Friday, Saturday sometimes, and then I got the Tuesday game, and he didn't play until the next Thursday. So the year after Dominik Hasek left Buffalo and was traded to Detroit, I played 72 games, and I remember my agent thinking that's too much. You're gonna wear out, you're gonna be exhausted, and physically I didn't feel exhausted. Maybe mentally at some point, like you start to tired up a little bit, but I don't think goalies would physically get tired of playing in back-to-back situation. And if you train them to play more back-to-back situation mentally, they would stay engaged for 48 hours. You know, Friday morning, you go to morning skate, you start your mental preparation, you play that night, and then boom, you play Saturday and you stay engaged for 48 hours. And then you take a break for 4 days. Now, I'm not saying you do that every back-to-back situations, but the data shows that, well, goalies have a drop-off in the second game of a back-to-back. Well, yeah, obviously, nobody does it. And when you do it, it's a surprise to your body. It's a surprise to your mind. It's a surprise to everything. You may not perform as well because you're not ready. But we used to have back-to-backs in the playoffs. And there's never a time that Dominik Hasek would say, I'm not going to play the second game of a back-to-back in the playoffs, or Lundqvist or Miller, right? Like my first playoff series, 07-08, with the Flyers, game 6 and game 7 were back-to-back. Played game 6 in Philly, lost, took the train, went to Washington, played game 7 the very next day. Like, you got to play it, right? And we won. So I think goalies should play more back-to-backs. I totally am on board with that.
Love that. Okay, so we talk about coaches pulling goalies, and nobody understands goaltending like a goaltender. Should a goalie ever be allowed to pull themselves from a game? And not like they just allowed 6 goals against. Like if they're feeling shaky, should a goalie ever be allowed to go like, the vibes aren't right tonight?
Yes, they should be allowed to, but that will never happen. And I'll give you a good example is, and Sarah, your tweet with Rod Brindamore about him not drinking coffee is fantastic because I don't drink coffee. And the 1 year in Philly, I'm looking around and guys are popping Red Bull right before the game and they're really fired up. And I don't drink coffee. I don't drink caffeine. So we're playing Boston at home. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. Stupid me. Like I should have tried it in practice one day to see how my body was going to react to drinking a Red Bull before the game. But I drank a Red Bull before warm up. Middle of the first period, I literally could see like 5 pucks and 12 Boston Bruins on the ice, right? Like I'm like shaking. Glenn Murray shot it from outside the blue line on a wrist shot and it beat me eye blocker. Like my eyes were jittery. My body was jittery. I probably should have gone to the bench and said, listen, get me out of here. Like I'm not right. Never would I've ever done that. And I don't think anybody would, but that would be a situation where you should be able to say, things are not really good. I need to do it.
Red Bull gave you wings.
Yeah, that wasn't good. It wasn't the wings that I needed. And I remember it was also dad's trip night and my dad was there and he's like, what the hell was that all about? And I'm like, you don't want to know.
All right, Marty, obviously you are a student of the game as well as a player of the game. Is there anyone who's playing goaltender right now that you're watching because they're maybe doing something innovative or something different in the position that is new that others haven't done before?
So that's a great question because I remember when Jonathan Quick came onto the scene and he was on his knees, reverse VH, and for years, we were like VH. That's the way to play the post, right? And then you realize that this kid is coming in, and all of a sudden he's got this athletic ability that not a lot of people do have, but you can work on it. And it was so unique and it was so good. So a goalie around the NHL that has athletic ability that I turn the games on, there's a few of them. I was not flexible. I was as stiff as a bar. And I know there's some goalies out there that are really good, very stiff. Connor Hellebuck's a stiff goaltender. He's really good, but he's a stiff goaltender. Freddie Anderson's a really good goaltender, but he's a stiff goaltender. But get me a flexible goaltender that's under control, that is explosive, a Vasilevsky, a Shesterkin of that sort, a UC Soros. Like I'll turn it on the game just to see them because I couldn't do it. I was not like that. So those are the guys that I think have taken the game another step. And now, watch Devin Levi in the Beanpot final. And I'm like, look at how athletic, flexible, in control. Like he's so strong with his core and his hips and his groin, and to be able to go full split and then back to his feet. And so to me, that is going to be the next 10 years of goaltending. Like I remember trying to do yoga and Pilates, and I was like, this doesn't work for me. Like I've got legs like this. I'm like, I'm not flexible. But I wish that when I was 18, that would have been what we were told to do. So if I was talking a 16, 17-year-old goaltender that's playing midget hockey or junior hockey going into that's what you got to do. You got to build that flexibility, that core strength, because that's where the game is going now. The stiff goaltenders, they're still going to be able to do it, but there's not as many of them that do it well.
That makes a ton of sense. It's all about like training right and changing the way we think of it. So let's talk about, e-bugs. Do we need to change the e-bug situation? Should a skater be the one that has to go in net, or should we have an e-bug in the building? And what would it take for you to be an e-bug?
Well, first of all, it would take me probably a time machine for at least 5 or 6 years to be an e-bug, because I barely play goalie anymore. I put the gear once a year maybe, and I feel like I'm going to get hurt every time. So I don't mind the e-bug situation as long as it's not overused. And I don't want to say overused. You got to use an emergency backup when there's an emergency. I totally get that. And it seems to be more emergencies now. We never had that issue. Like never would there be a situation where both goaltenders would be hurt to be out of the game and you got to put an emergency backup. But I remember back in the days, Jay McKee was a defenseman for us. He sometimes would put on the gear in practice for fun on an optional day. And we knew that if there was an issue, Jay McKee was going to put the gear and going to have to play for, a period or more, depending on the situation. So, yeah, I don't know that you want to risk putting a player in net that maybe never does it. And I never see players messing around in goalie gear in practice anymore because there's the emergency backup. But those guys that are emergency backup usually practice with the teams. And that's where it becomes a little tricky. Right? Like David Ayers with the Toronto Maple Leafs, like having to go in with Carolina. And then the guys all know him because he skates with them regularly. And that's the tricky part of it. But I don't think there's any other solution other than saying, you know what? That's it. Your one goalie goes out. Your second goalie goes out. You got to play with 6 players. That's what it is. That, we don't bring the emergency goalie.
Let's go. That's it right here. That's the headline.
I mean, coaches pull their goalies with 6 minutes left in the game. What if there's 6 minutes left and your second goalie gets hurt? Well, go with 6 players.
I love it.
And if you want to stand in net, go off, right? Take a blocker, hop in net, and get ready.
I've seen players also like turn their stick over and play actual goalie. I've seen Ovechkin do it. Now, do I want Ovechkin to block a slap shot? No, but also like you can't have a rule saying, okay, we're not allowed slap shots, like beer league rule. If there's no goalies because they're both hurt, no slap shots allowed. Like you want to be at least giving those players a chance. But I have a crazy one for you guys. And this is because I sucked at shootout. I was terrible in shootouts. And I go back to, many, many years ago. And now I'm blanking on his name and I feel shame for blanking on his name. He was a coach that had these crazy ideas. Anyway, I'll come back. But he wanted to put a defenseman in the crease for a penalty shot. Because Roger Nielsen wanted, he was such an innovator. He wanted to put a defenseman in the crease on a penalty shot situation because he thought, why not, right? He'll come out and play it one-on-one and be able to gap up. And so penalty shots rules now are you have to have a goaltender and you can't leave your crease until the player touches the puck at center ice. How about this? And I tried it in practice and I think it would work maybe if it was a surprise. How about the goalie in a penalty shot or shootout attempt come charging out and then plays the shooter as a defenseman, right? Because I was terrible and I thought, how can I gain an advantage? So you play it one-on-one. You go out, you stop, you pivot, you're backing up, you're gapping up, you're taking an angle. I almost feel like that would have a better percentage than actually facing a shooter in the crease.
It'd be fun.
Amazing.
Now they'd have another line on the ice and say goalies are not allowed to go past this line ever. They would like a trapezoid line.
Good at it.
Yeah, exactly. A trapezoid, but in front of the icing line. But I thought about that, and that's how my mind goes. I've got a lot of crazy ideas when it comes to strategy and structure. I've mentioned it to a few coaches, and they look at me like I've got 3 heads. I feel like teams are good enough to defend with 4 skaters at times. Why not just keep somebody at the far blue line, cherry pick, like on certain situations and say, hey, the first 30 seconds in zone, maybe we'll try to defend with 4. And as soon as we got the puck, we'll shoot it out and hope for breakaway. Like, why not? Why? Like we did that as kids in the street all the time. Like we cherry picked because we wanted to score goals and it worked then. Don't know that it would work in the NHL, but I was a goalie that would sit on the bench and think about it. And I'm like, what if we just had 4 really good penalty killers with a good breakaway player at the far blue line? Like, what is it, 89%, 85% success rate on the penalty kill. Put your best ones out there and send the puck out to the far blue line for a breakaway.
It's kind of like, not to bring up Rod Brindamore again, but it reminds me of like what he's doing now, where he has Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen on the penalty kill, and they have a lot of shorthanded goals. That's the word for it. It was escaping my mind.
Power
but
kill.
It's like the game is so fluid now, right? Where defensemen have to kind of jump the rush and be forwards too. So I like it. I like the take.
Yeah,
I think but nobody's going to want to try it at the NHL level. And it's the same thing with goalies, right? We have all these crazy ideas. Like, I love equipment, but I think at some point the equipment's going to, again, need to be looked at. Man, you should see, like, I used to have 7-8 leather straps on my pads, and it was heavy, and it was, not the way it is. Now they got 2 Velcros, boom, boom, boom. The pads are on, the pants are very protective. Everything works. We may have to look at the equipment again at some point, but when it comes to structure, it's so embedded into the game that doing the trap, right? Jacques Lemaire with the Devils and the trap was like a crazy idea. And then everybody came about. And so I'd like to see one coach, right? Like, there's Chicago, you're not making the playoff. How about you put Andreas Athanasi or Max Domi or Patrick Kane at the far blue line and let your guys play 4-on-5 for a little bit and send it to that player at the far blue line and see what happens.
I think
at worst you lose, which is what you're trying to do.
I think we know who our next candidate for a new NHL head coach is.
Yes.
I think we got it.
I have great ideas when it comes to that sometimes, but I am the worst bench person. I coach like Bantam a little bit and midget a little bit. And when I had to fill in for the head coach, and the guys all look at me and they're like, who's next? I'm looking at I have zero idea on how the bench is controlled. I never had to do it as a player, but no way. I'm terrible.
All right, Marty. Well, you are a living legend. This has been so much fun. We do not let you go, though, without playing our favorite game. It's how we end every episode. Okay. Have you heard of the Fuck, Marry, Kill game? Have you heard of this? Okay.
Yes. I kind of had a feeling we were going to go there. So I'm not prepared or anything, but yes. Okay.
Okay. So here's your choices. As a goaltender.
Yes.
Fuck, Marry, Kill, an odd man rush against, shootout, rebounds.
Okay. That's easy. Like, you killed a shootout. Like, I was terrible at it. I am going to marry the rebounds, and I'm going to fuck the 2-on-1, the odd man rush. And the reason for marrying the rebound is I was always feeling good about either my rebound location or even giving up rebounds. I like to have the rebound right in front of me. I felt like it boosted my shot against anyway. When I gave up a rebound and it was right in front of me, I got a second and a third and a fourth. It was great. But yeah, so I would say I would fuck the on-man rushes, marry the rebound, and kill the shootouts.
Amazing. Marty, thank you so much. We're going to have you back. You may be top guest of all time already. This has been awesome.
You guys do a great job. I love it. You guys do a great job. I'll come back anytime and we can talk about more goalie crazy ideas. I'll have a folder on my phone now. Every time I think of something crazy goalie ideas, I'll put them down and we'll have to revisit that in a few months.
Let's do it. We're here for it. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Y'all, that is still one of the best conversations I think I've ever had with a player, past, present, or even future. Again, huge kudos to Shayna for making that happen. Thank you. We've got some other guests we've got some invites out to, so we'll see what we can do coming up. But you might like some of them, we think. As we've done when we've had a guest in the past, we want to wrap with our favorite game again, which is Fuck, Marry, Kill. And we're going to do the same that we asked our guests to do. Shayna, as the person who made the interview happen, you get to go first. Are you ready?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Are we answering this as a neutral party or if we were goalies?
I think you can do it either way. Just clarify which one.
Okay.
Go ahead. Do you want me to say they're odd man rush, shootout, or rebound? And I was surprised by Marty's answers personally, but go ahead.
I'm going to, as both a viewer and a goalie, kill the shootout. I think that watching like a skills competition is honestly fun. I enjoy it all the time, seeing the moves, players bring out. That's not it for me. I am going to fuck a rebound. I think that second chance opportunities can be like the most dangerous. And I think from a viewer perspective, and I would assume from a goalie perspective, like when you see those big saves, and I think of like even like Jake Ottinger in the playoffs against the Flames, I remember it was like the best save of the postseason was like this incredible like rebound second effort that he was able to stop. I feel like that's like the energy boost and the good vibes, but I also feel like that is a lot of goals against can happen that way. So, and sometimes the goalie doesn't get the proper credit because there's so much chaos in front of the net. So we'll only fuck that because there's some downsides. And I will marry the odd man rush because I feel like that is the perfect way to showcase a goalie skills when you see them stop the odd man rush opportunity. And then from a skater's perspective, I think that it's so exciting when you see these like speedy, fast, skillful plays, especially like really crafty passing plays. I like them. So I will marry that. I think there's like a nice consistency to them on either side of the equation.
Sarah?
Okay, I'm going to marry the shootout because I'm lazy and I lack accountability, and no one's going to get mad at me if I lose the shootout. Like, you should have scored then. I'm going to kill a rebound because I'm lazy. I don't want to do all that. Get it on the first try or not. And I am going to fuck the odd man rush because it looks like I put a lot of effort. I mean, you do put a lot of effort into that. But
it looks like only on the surface looks like it.
But I think it would be impressive. So, Allison.
Amazing. I am going to marry the odd man rush for a lot of the same reasons as Shayna, because we know that that can often lead to the use of one of the most dangerous passes in hockey, and I love to see it. And I'm speaking as an observer because I also do love to learn and study how goaltenders react and the choices they make in the moment and how the whole play happens. So I'm going to marry the odd man rush. That's my favorite. I'm going to kill the rebound because the goaltender could have just froze the puck in the first place. It's just kind of garbage play. Like, I get it, Shayna, your points are all very valid and I hear you. I
get no, that's a good point. If you just freeze it in the first place, sometimes you can, but if you can and just stop play, like how many times are you screaming it? Like, just cover it, just stop play, just give everyone a breather.
Like, here's the thing, I'm with you. Like, there are some great like rebound plays, like net front, but there's too many bad juicy rebounds that negate my enjoyment of the play as a whole. And so therefore I will fuck the shootout because who was it we were watching this weekend, Shayna? Was it Shesterkin? Was that what was that? No.
Yeah, it was Shesterkin against Jack Campbell.
Shesterkin. Yes. Like, Shesterkin and his choices and how he was playing each shootout was, again, as an observer, I would love to learn from a goaltender how the strategy behind the response to each, even though the plays are garbage plays and it's skill play and that shouldn't decide a game. And that is my belief on all things hockey. Okay. We did it, team.
We did it.
We did it. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. Please do connect with us outside of the show. You can follow us on the socials at 2_much_man on both Twitter and Instagram. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. Submit your Fuck, Marry, Kill nominations, and we will take it all in unless we don't like it, and then we will dismiss it right away. Please do remember that we have merch, including new merch like the burn books, the notebooks, the Apple Watch bands, and more. And there's more stuff coming soon. We turn all of those proceeds right around and deliver them back to organizations that are helping us do what we ask of you to do every single episode, and that is do something, no matter how big or small, every day to make sure that hockey truly is for everyone. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Love you.
Bye.